Hello, everybody. We've got some people still joining us, but we're here with Stephen Oremus today. Thank you for giving up some time. We have him until 4 o'clock, so we'll get in as much as we can. We have some actors, we have some music directors. If you have questions or follow-ups as we go, just send me a little chat and we can ask them, or you can ask them. I'll ask them, doesn't matter. But let's start where I start with all of these, Stephen. Can you just give us your little Stephen Oremus backstory? How did you get into what you do? Where did you go to school? All that fun stuff. The quick bio.
It's real quick. I actually was. I'm from Livingston, New Jersey, and I grew up making music and studying piano since I was 5 years old, and I went to college in Boston at Berklee College of Music. I was a film scoring major there. And when I did 4 years and 3 because I wanted to get out. So I went over the summers and I was like, let's get out, let's be done with this. Although I did love my time there. And I came to New York and I was working at a video store, for those of you who remember what those are. I was renting VCR tapes, and a friend of mine called me and was like, hey, I'm doing a show at a dinner theater. They need a pianist. And I was like, cool. So I went and I was like, it was kind of a shady situation. So I'm not going to talk too much about what dinner theater that was, but we got paid in cash after every performance and there were no 1099s. So I don't know what was going on there, but let's just say I got the opportunity to start to go back to playing musicals, which I always loved. And I always played for the shows in high school. And I played for a voice teacher in my hometown from the time I was 13 years old after school, all the way until the time I graduated high school. So it was a great love of mine to be able to accompany and perform with singers. And so anyway, I started getting jobs at this dinner theater, and I kept doing more. And then that same friend was like, my friend is music directing a workshop of a musical. Do you want to meet him and audition for him? And I did, and I got the job. And I was the assistant music director on a little show called Zombie Prom, which was also Kristen Chenoweth's first show in New York, which is hilarious. The two of us, she was in that, and from there I just kind of kept doing work. I just kept going to doing regional theater and summer stock and playing classes at AMDA, and playing all the auditions that I could do, that I could make, and try to make my rent. And luckily, I was one of those people that really, all of my part-time work was music related, which was awesome because I was just kind of like submerged in it. And then eventually I got the opportunity to go out on tour, and I auditioned for the second national tour of Rent, and I got that job. And if this is this too long already? I'm almost there.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay, good. And then this is the part that I really love, because this is the part that I'm proudest of, right? So I did this. I went and I did Rent, and we opened a show in Boston, and the producers came to the show in Boston. This is the second national tour. They've seen a couple productions already. The producers asked to meet me, and they were like, who are you? This show sounds better than we've ever heard it, blah, blah, blah. And it was very complimentary and so sweet. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I love my job. Thank you for my job. And I get a call the next week from Andrew Lippa, who had said, hey, we're doing the Wild Party, and I want to hire you to be the MD. Manhattan Theater Club doesn't want to hire you because you don't have any Broadway credits. But the commercial producers are Jeffrey and Kevin, who you just met. And they loved your work on Rent, and they went to bat for you and basically told MTC they have to hire you. And I was like, oh. So thanks to Jeffrey Seller, really, I was able to, start my career with the Wild Party. My calling card in New York as music director, my first job was the Wild Party, which was like that was like the big aha moment for me, the big Oprah moment for me, where I was literally like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be doing new musicals with all these super talented people and doing creative things and all that. And the rest of it from there, you can just fast forward and just kind of, read my bio, because from there I met Stephen Schwartz, and he was like, hey, I'm writing a show about these witches. Would you be interested in music directing? And I was like, yeah, sure. So that was 20 years ago, this fall. Was when Stephen Schwartz asked me over dinner if I'd be interested in coming out to LA to music direct a reading of Wicked with 10 actors and a piano, act one, which was about 3.5 hours long, but don't get me started. And yeah, and then from that point on, everything was connected. I mean, this is the way these things work. For those of you that are music directors, it's like these things, it's like, the producers that I worked with called me again. The composers that I worked with called me again. The relationships that I developed, that I formed really amazing creative partnerships with, were people that I continued to work with over the years. And I think that you'll see that in the work that I did from that point forward. But what was amazing about it is I got to kind of from the Wild Party on, because the Wild Party, I was just hired as music director, and I didn't really arrange anything. Like I cleaned up a lot of the vocals and did a lot of little tweaks here and there, and a couple bars here, a couple bars there, which even Andrew would admit. But it was after that I got to do Tick Tick Boom, and arrange and orchestrate that show, and create a whole new piece out of something that Jonathan had and so and it was that kind of creative work with the arranging and the orchestrating that really was that was the big holy shit, this is what I need to be doing. I love this is and I was just so psyched that people kept calling me to do more of it. So anyway, so that's my story.
Love it. Whatever happened with Wicked? Was it successful?
I don't know. I haven't heard much about it.
What are you up to now that we're all kind of stuck inside? Although New York is starting to open up a little bit, but what has your life been the past 3 months? Have you been working on things? What have you?
I mean, here and there, it's been amazing. I have to say, the first month was insane, and because as you can tell, I vibrate at a certain frequency. I get very excited, and I want to always be busy, and I want to always have 5 things happening at the same time. And so when that doesn't happen, it's I don't relax well. I mean, I do. I eventually do, but so I think that that first month was a lot. And I have a 4-year-old daughter, and we're lucky to be upstate and out of the city, and and there are trees and space, and and it makes a huge difference. But it was a huge adjustment. So it's a lot of I've taken a lot of time for myself in that I really never got to do. I mean, I'm meditating more, I'm exercising more, I'm actually doing a lot of little creative projects. I was working on a writing project with a friend that's morphing into something, and I'm working on a couple of other things I was working on a play that was actually supposed to be happening this past season on Broadway, that I'm doing some arranging work on, and that's starting to come back around, and a million Zoom compilations of things. You'll see one next week. We're going to be releasing, all of those things. But it's been great. I mean, it's been really, really exciting. It's been a really great time. And I have to say that personally, the family time is the biggest thing for me, because I don't get this time back. And I'm always getting on a plane and flying somewhere, and, and doing, just who knows where I am. So it's just having this concentrated time, with my husband and my kid, it's just unbelievably beautiful.
Nice. So sorry about Frozen, that it's closing.
Oh yeah, it's a bummer. I know.
Well,
it makes me so sad.
Is there a game plan going forward with Wicked and Book of Mormon about what the next steps are to reopen?
Got me. No, I haven't heard anything. I know about as much as everybody else. You know, is that like sometime next year? It looks like Broadway will be coming back at some point in some form. You know, I mean, I do know that like, you know, Disney, like there are many worldwide productions of Frozen that will still be happening that have all been in the pipeline. So we'll be doing those. We'll probably do. I mean, honestly, some of those might happen before Broadway comes back because
Yeah.
the rest of the world is coming back in different phases. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's really bizarre. It's, you know, it's it's just unprecedented, and for all of us to be, you know, everyone's so shell shocked. But I think the big thing is just kind of living in some kind of sense of it all. It's living in acceptance and just kind of literally, not to quote, you know, Bobby and Kristen, but letting it go. I mean, because you have to. It's like, what are you going to do? So we're all collecting unemployment, and, you know, and doing our best and trying to be there for our families and be there for each other. You know, and not to mention, you know, be there for our community and be there for, you know, everything that's going on, and all the conversations that are happening now about what happens when we come back, and all the different conversations we have to continue to have in our community and our business.
Dealing with lots of long running, very successful shows, you've seen your fair share of self tapes, I'd imagine.
Uh-huh.
Can you, the by far the biggest question, and I think it's because this is where auditions have been in the past 4 months, is what do you look for in a self tape? What makes a good self tape for an actor auditioning for a show?
Um, the well, you know, self tapes usually, um, it's usually like a last ditch thing for us. You know, it's if someone's out of town when we're seeing some people and we have to see people, and we'll you know, and someone will. It's never the it's never the preference. And now I know everyone's self taping because that's all we can do. But you know, I think it's really, you know, you have to remember that it's still just like in the audition room. Like, we have to get a glimpse of who you are. We have to get a glimpse of who your personality is a little bit. We have to get a glimpse of, like, does this person look like a cool person that we'd want to be playing in a room with, you know, making something creative, you know. And then it's like, can the person sing the notes? Can the person hit the, uh, hit all the acting beats, and, you know, all of those things, and then the many other important requirements. So I think that there's a lot of I think that it's, you know, people are getting better and better at it because they have to now, which is great. You know, I mean, everybody has a ring light. I even have one. I don't have it on, um, yeah. So, like, you know, everybody has a ring light. Everyone, you know, it's like, you know, getting their friends to help them with self tapes and all that stuff. And I think it's important to, you know, to just make sure that that, you know, that it's that it, that we get in, you know, that you get like enough uh, of your essence. It's really about the essence of the person. You know what I mean? You can just tell. You know, it's really not for me. It's never just about, like, oh, can they hit the notes, or is that the type of voice I want to hear in the show? It's like, you get a feel for people. That's the whole point of seeing them in an audition room and getting to, like, interact with them.
Um, you generally don't sit in the rooms for the open calls, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So by the time you're in the room, people are coming back with their callback material.
Yeah.
What are you looking for out of an actor in those callbacks? How much of do you want them to stay on the page? How much room do they have to play? I know it's different show to show. Like, I'm sure there's more room in Kiki Boots than there is in Book of Mormon to play with riffs and stuff. What's your
Not as much as you'd think. I mean, listen, you know, it's really fascinating. You know, having worked on so many shows over the years, and with composers that, you know, from all different worlds, from the pop world and from the musical theater world and all that. You know, it really, at the end of the day, like, I think it's always important to remind actors that like, it's not just about a riff or an extra note that you add. that makes you special and how you perform it. It's what you bring to the material. It's how you put the material across. It's so many other things than just adding a note or you know, or being like, you know, it's like, as you can imagine, I have to deal with like those, you know, with people that are like, I want to be the Elphaba who's remembered for ... You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, so I'm also sent those videos and people are like, isn't this Elphaba amazing? And I'll be like, if honestly, if I'd seen that performance, I would have fired her. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Things like that, because like it's because I'm sure they did something that sounded incredible to their ear, but it felt very self-serving, and it didn't feel like it was the character, and it didn't feel like it was part of the story. It didn't feel part of, and if that's not happening, then you're not doing your job. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's a much deeper thing. It's really, again, about what the actor brings to it. You know, it's like, for example, like there's a woman in Germany who played Elphaba, right? Wilhelmine. Everyone knows her, who she is. If you haven't seen her, just look up Wilhelmine. You know, the German Wicked. She's extraordinary. She's a great friend of mine. She's beautiful, beautiful person and actress and singer, and has performed the show in 3 different languages. She's done it in Dutch, English, British English, and American English. And you know, she sang the show, and almost like, I'm not saying that she didn't have a, you know, there wasn't a performance. I'm sure you can find a performance where she riffed, she did some crazy riff at the end of Defying Gravity or something like that. But overall, she sang that show. She sang almost every freaking note on that page, and it was beautiful and fascinating, and people were amazed by it. And I would always point to her and say, like, she didn't do anything. She just sounds amazing, because it's all coming from her. It's all coming from her heart. It's all coming from this performer and how she expresses it. And, you know, it's the timbre of her voice, and it's the choices that she makes as far as the phrasing, and so many other things than just not adding notes. And then I worked with Cyndi Lauper, who was like, you know, I mean, she was like crazy. She was like, sing the melody. She's like, why aren't they singing the melody? What are they trying to do? That sounds like fake music. I mean, she's like, they're trying to be pop, but they're not pop, and they sound musical theater, and they sound like they should be in South Pacific, you know. And like, I mean, like, it was like she was like, there's no filter there, people. So I love her. She's like my crazy Italian aunt from Queens. But I will say that, you know, like, she's right. It's like, even from a pop standard, like, pop music has changed over the years, and most of the people that are on here are, you know, on the younger side, and are like, you know, and think that pop music is just like, you know, like, even Mariah Carey is old to them, you know. So like, you know, but like, you know, American Idol on, and that is like some expression of that. But the truth is, if you want to really go back to like more of a, even like a Whitney Houston, or any of the pop music from the 70s and 80s, and you realize, oh, before they alter the melody, they let you know what the melody is. And that is, like, to me, it's like, you know, Billy Porter always said that, he said that, state the melody and then depart. That's the gospel rule. We have to know what the song is, and then you do an alteration on it. And that's been since Bach and Beethoven, that has been music. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as music goes, and performance in a show, it has to be based on the character. It has to be based on the storytelling. It has to be based on, you know, it has to have something behind it. Otherwise, it's self-serving and not about the piece.
You started to touch on my next question, so thank you for the great
Mm-hmm.
segue. Can you talk a little bit about the Stephen Oremus approach to the pop rock audition? What are you looking for in a pop rock voice as opposed to a music theater? You know what I mean by that question,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because that brings Cyndi Lauper back into it, because she's literally allergic to vibrato. Like, she hears vibrato, and she's like, oh, and like, she's like, why are they singing like that? And I was like, I would always say to her, I was like, Cyndi, you sing with vibrato. And she's like, right, but I don't lead with it, which is amazing. So the way I like to think of it, and she's right, I mean, it is a more pop sound. If you think of your favorite pop singers, you know, you're not going to hear, even if they do sing with some vibrato, you're going to hear a very different tone that is much more straight ahead. But there's a timbre to the sound, and then if there is vibrato, it trails in towards the end of a sustained note of some kind. And that to me is what, in general, and actually almost all of my shows, like I'm very, very specific about the use of vibrato in every show that I do, and especially because I'm usually doing the vocal arrangements, and I also, I have a very specific way that I want them to sound. And I think that it's important to like, you know, it has to, again, to honor each style. For a pop rock style, and for a show like Kinky Boots, or even when we did 9 to 5, or, you know, whatever, it really has to have, it has to have a more, you know, I saw some meme, and it said something about like, it was likening the use of vibrato to like, you know, like, you don't want to pour the ketchup all over the fries. You want to keep the ketchup on the side and dip them, because then, you know, you can control the amount of ketchup that you get, and it doesn't ruin the flavor of the fries. And that's the way I look at vibrato. You know what I mean? Like, I always tell the cast that I work with, I'm like, use your vibrato for good. Push the sound forward. You know what I mean? For me, it's an energy thing, and it actually, you know, and it's helped actually a lot of singers that I've worked with approach material in a very different way, because it's not about just spinning it for the sake of spinning it and sounding like an old style musical theater singer. And it really, you know, but I think that a lot of it really is the key. The key thing is about the vibrato and the shape of the vowels. And that is something that I listen for. And, you know, look, honestly, whenever I'm putting a cast together, especially if it's a show that has more pop rock stuff, you know, I want people that can do it all. You know what I mean? I want people that have control over every part of their range. I respond to those people that can sing, you know, that can, you know, like those women that can sound like they're literally belting high G's, you know, straight tone, but then they can like hit it and spin it, you know what I mean? As well. You know, it takes a lot of very strong technique to be able to do all that stuff. So yeah, so I guess that's pretty much my hit list on that.
Yeah, that's great. Can you talk a little bit? I think this is a good question for actors and music directors. Can you talk a little bit about the negotiation that happens between directors, music directors, producers, choreographers as you get further down the line in final callbacks? Because it's not always about talent. There are so many other factors involved in casting a person in a show. How does that
Yeah,
diplomacy and discussion work?
I mean, you know, it's all a giant collaboration. What can I say? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I think it's hardest. Look, it's hardest for actors to kind of make sense of it, because who knows, once it goes through from from the creative team to the casting director to the agent, what kind of game of telephone happens. And I've had friends that have had really horrible experiences and gotten terrible feedback that has gotten back to me and said, oh my God, no one said that. I don't know why they told you that, or that was the takeaway, you know. But you know, it's an individual thing with each show. You know, it's especially with existing shows, you know, it's like there are a lot of things to consider, as far as you know, you know, people that are being, you know, the requirements for each role. You know, and every show does it differently, and every production that I've worked on does it differently, and operates differently. You know, on Frozen, for instance, and I can only say this because like we've been in auditions for one of the foreign companies recently. You know, like I can tell them, you know, when we're putting the ensemble together, I have the breakdown of what the voices are that I know that I need, right? And then Rob Ashford has a breakdown of like the skill level, like for the dancers that he needs, right? And so I split mine up into my little matrix. He splits up his little matrix. The director then has his opinion, Michael, and of course the producer is on with all of it, and we're all having a discussion about it. And then it's just about it's about finding the people that tick all the boxes and then can cover all the roles, that can sing the proper range, that can dance the proper steps, and all of those things. There are the thing about it is that there are finite things that we have to, there's finite standards for every track in every show that have to be met. It's like if you're going to be singing like tenor 1 in a show that I arranged, you have to have a solid high B or C that's like really, really strong, and that you can sing straight tone and you can sing with a big gospel spin, whatever. So like that's like, if you can't do that, you can't be in that track. You know what I mean? So it's that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing is the miscommunication back to the performers in those processes that I feel badly about personally, even though it's not my responsibility to do that. But I do feel like I think everyone just has to have has to have an understanding that there's always more factors than you think of like what it could be like that you're 2 inches shorter than the person that are being replaced, and they're they don't want anyone under 6 foot in that track. And sometimes if it's really and I've been in this position on several shows, sometimes if it has to happen really fast and it's a really, really fast replacement, sometimes you are casting someone that has to fit a costume, literally has to fit a costume, and dance the steps and sing the notes and look like they are part of the world that has been created. So it's a multifaceted situation, and a collaboration on all levels.
Wicked, Book of Mormon, like your shows have had multiple productions in multiple countries. Mm-hmm. How do you maintain that? This is more of a music director question. How do you keep them straight in your head? How do you keep them exciting and energizing?
Well, I like to say, like I'm honestly, I'm so grateful that I've had that opportunity, and it's just been an incredible. I've got to go all over the world doing shows in different languages and all that. And I will say that it's more about all of the foreign companies are usually set up as either shorter licenses, or they usually don't have as long a life, depending on the market. So the thing is, it's really about setting it up right the first time, and then everyone else from that point we're going to see on video. It's rare that we, except for London. London, we go over, I go over probably a couple times a year for the shows that I work on over there. It's hard. I like to, what I rely on are building teams that of people that I really respect and have trained or have taught the show to. I teach the show to all of them, honestly. And so it's really, I've built up over the years, for instance, like the music director who's going to be doing the music supervisor who's going to be doing Frozen in Germany, at some point, is someone that I've worked with for 15 years, because he did Wicked for me originally, and then he did Kinky Boots for me over there, and he's like one of my dearest friends, and he's like, it's literally like having me in the room. Like when I see his notes and they present people to me, I'll be like, oh well, that's exactly what I would think. I mean, so it's really about building the teams and having the incredible people to work with me on those productions. For instance, like even on the national tour of Wicked, it's like to have music directors that that I, you know, because I'll check in like maybe quarterly, maybe, depending on what's going on. Sometimes I have to delay my visits and all that stuff. I mean, but so it's really about getting the people that are really just like music directing and maintaining those shows, and and are really putting all of those people in, because it doesn't stop in America. At least in the other productions, you have full 1-year contracts. And I know actors love those run of show contracts, but as a creative, it's just like maddening, because you're constantly putting people in, and instead of like putting a whole new crop of people in for the next year, like we do in London or in Japan or in Germany, it's a very it's a much more refreshing, and as a group, like the whole show moves forward together instead of putting like bits and pieces going on. So you really need a team of people that are working really hard to maintain the quality, and making sure that like when someone goes in, like like the third person from the left that covers one of the leads in one of the shows just went in and has to blend and be a part of the ensemble, and all of that stuff. It's a lot of work. So I rely a lot on those music directors, and those associate music directors and assistant music directors, and I have been very, very lucky to have built some really extraordinary collaborations and teams.
Nice. Turning for a second towards the 29-hour reading and workshops and that sort of thing, what
Mm-hmm.
types of actors do you look for when casting a 29-hour reading, where there isn't a lot of time, there's a lot of music, things change quickly? Do you look for people that can read music? Do you look for people that are quick learners? What's your ideal actor for that sort of situation?
Yes, and yes. I mean, well, yeah, I would say, look, reading music is not like. I mean, I have some friends that are like not the fastest readers, but they've got amazing ears and they pick something up in 2 seconds. I mean, I know for me, for like, I have go-to people, and I have people that I and that pool has gotten bigger and bigger over the years, because I've worked with so many talented people. And I feel like I had just done a developmental of a new musical that I'm working on a couple of about, well, it was more than 6 months ago. I guess it was back in the fall, and honestly, it was really the people that I chose for the reading, or that I put forward, because I knew that they were going to be able to do what I needed, because I was I was writing vocal arrangements for the first time on this score, and it was a very pop rock oriented thing, and I knew that I needed to like develop a really, I had to do it really fast, and honestly, I had to do a I work fast on my feet, and I need people to be able to change, like if you're reading something and then I say, like, what, can you just change that note to this, and then change that note to this, and like sing this line instead of that, and someone goes, it's not written down, like that's a problem. Like I can't, like that's not, like I need someone who's going to be able to be like, yeah, sure, sing it for me. What is it again? Oh, tell me the notes. Okay, okay, got it. You know what I mean? That's so it really is, in a 29-hour reading, or any kind of lab setting, especially in the beginning of developing a process, it's really important to have those people, and then add to that someone, people that, because we're still developing the sound of the show, so you want people that have a lot of skills in their toolbox as far as style and ability there.
Can you talk a little bit about? There were a bunch of questions from the music director crowd about
Cool.
just what do you do as a music supervisor? Like what? That's a huge question, I know, but like, what is your role? What does the music supervisor do?
Um, Basically, like in the simplest of terms, like let's look at it in terms of my first Broadway show, right? Wicked was, or actually it was my second, but my first one that I conducted, right? So I was the music director of Wicked. I was credited as the music director and music arranger on Wicked. And then after I stopped conducting Wicked and I went on to conduct All Shook Up, I gave up the chair at Wicked, but I was still doing all of the different companies of Wicked around the world. And at the time we had like 4 companies in America alone, and then we were doing all these companies around the world. And then I became the music supervisor of all of those companies. And then so music supervisor basically is the person that oversees all of the music and all of the music direction and all of the music department on every single production of the show. So that said, at one point, it's like there were 9 companies of Wicked, there were 6 companies of or 5 companies of Book of Mormon. There were 6 companies of Kinky Boots. They were just all going everywhere. And there was overlaps here and there, but so I'm responsible for every one of those music departments. So if something goes wrong in even in one of the foreign companies, and it and I hear from like the production supervisor or my music director on the ground there, I have to deal with that. So it's like, and I'm responsible for casting those shows. I'm responsible for staffing those shows. I'm responsible for, if a musician leaves, I have to audition or approve the new musicians that are being hired, especially in the foreign companies, all those things. So, and so for instance, like on Avenue Q, I never conducted Avenue Q, but I was the orchestrator and arranger and music supervisor of the show because it was all my music direction. I taught the show, I put it all up, but I wasn't the one in the building maintaining it. And that was my friend Gary Adler, who helped build that show as the music director, and he was the person on the ground. So I've never been the type of person that the way I see the music supervisor thing is very simply the way they do it in Europe, and which is what I just described, right? It's a music supervisor is like the head music director, basically, the head music director in charge, and over the music director, and then but for me personally, it was a choice that I made, and some music directors do it differently, and some music directors don't want to, even if they step away from conducting the show, they will still consider, say like they want the music director title, and then the person is just the conductor and whatnot. I firmly believe that the music director, the person that is conducting the show, that has to maintain that show and maintain my work, is doing the work of a music director. So I never begrudge someone that title. It's just words, but it's an equally important job to have to be maintaining the show, even though I still will have notes for them, but that's the deal.
Turning back towards actors for a second, a lot of your shows have been very long running. So you've dealt with actors that have been in these shows for a long time, for a long stretch. Have you noticed anything that they do that keeps them interested in the show instead of it just becoming a job? Any advice for how to maintain that excitement, even though you've done the same thing for years?
No, that's honestly, my hat goes off to those people. Like I say it all the time because I go once a year to London to work with the new company of Wicked and the new company of Book of Mormon, and I'm always just amazed. And when I come back and work with the Broadway companies and everything, it's hard. It's like, and people need to take time away. People need to take leaves of absence to do new things. I mean, I think it's so important to like just get a fresh perspective and step away for a second. But honestly, that's why we have brush up rehearsals, and that's why like and I haven't done one, I mean, certainly I can't wait to do them when I get to come back to Broadway now, but I haven't done the ones on Broadway in a little bit. But that's the most exciting thing, because it's when we all get back together in a room and we go like literally song by song, and I get to remind them of why we made it the way we made it. I get to remind them like why, like why they're crescendoing instead of just walking 5 steps and hitting a note and making it louder. You know what I mean? I get to remind them like all of the nuances and all of the stuff that enriches the world that we made on these shows. And that's the exciting part. So I mean, and I have to say that the people that the people that are really there to do the work and that are still like really in it to win it, which are most of the people that I work with, really appreciate it and love it, and just it's just like it wakes them up, and that's why we have resident directors and associate directors and music supervisors and music directors, doing that sort of thing to kind of get you to reinvest in. But I really do believe, I mean, that's again, that's a whole other conversation about the pink contracts versus the white contracts and all that stuff. But to get time away from a long run is it's imperative. Like you have to, or you will just go insane. Like I couldn't do that. I don't know. That's all I have to say.
On a lighter note, I asked Ben Cohen this, and he had a great story. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer. But conducting Wicked or playing Mormon, was there ever a performance you did where you just messed up? You just hit a wrong button at the wrong time, played a wrong sound at the wrong time, just an embarrassing conducting moment?
Oh gosh, I mean, there have been a few. For on those shows, like, I mean, I do remember. I will say, the one that jumps out at me was actually Rent, because I was playing and conducting, and that was like, and it was just, it couldn't have been a worse moment. And it was one of those moments where we were in Boston, and I was like a kid. I was like, I don't know, in my mid-20s, and I had made this major purchase. I bought these amazing. So it was the late '90s, people. It was '99-ish, and I bought these amazing pair of John Fluvog shoes. Now, if you know John Fluvog, you know that they make these like crazy soles that are like pretty thick, and they have like angels on the bottom and shit. Like, there's just, they're complex, and these. It was the late '90s, so everyone was wearing a chunky boot or shoe. So I put these shoes on, and I was like, these are gonna look so cool in the show. I'm so excited. I'm out there with everybody, and and I felt like such a rock star doing that show anyway. So I get out there, and we're doing the show, and it was like the worst show I ever played and conduct ever, because I had 3 sets of pedals, and I didn't audition the shoes before I tried the pedals. And all of a sudden I realized that these shoes were way too big to be wearing. And it was messing up all of my, all of these moments. And so by the time I got to the second act, I actually changed my shoes, because act 1 was such a disaster. Because I was like, I was missing patch changes, and like we got into Light My Candle, and I played the wrong patch, and like everyone jumped, and I was like, oh shit. So anyway, so we get to the big moment, which is Maureen's entrance, right? So I have to play that whole tone scale up to the da 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 da. So it's just like, and it's beginning to, and it's beginning to, and it's beginning to. And I had to go switch, and I went switch, wrong patch, wrong notes. I don't know what I played. It was such a disaster. Like people literally stopped and were like, "Are we gonna have to stop the show?" Because it was like a trumpet sound came out, and then I panicked, and I tried to change the notes, and then I changed the patch, and then I tried to fix what I was playing, and it all happened so rapidly. I just was like, literally like into the camera with the cast was like looking at me like, I was like, it's the shoes. It was so embarrassing.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
I never recovered from that. So I will say that, but I will say that if you watched Rent live on Fox, I did nail that fucking moment.
Crushed it.
Just because I had to. I was like, I have to play that right.
You should have brought your shoes from the late 90s to Rent Live to make up
I
for
couldn't. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Yeah.
it. Can you, are there any, what are the biggest mistakes you see singers doing in the room that you wish you could tell them to stop doing?
Hmm. Like in an audition
Yeah, in an audition.
situation. Um, I think that I think it's I think that it's more of I see people resist um a note, you know what I mean? Like if I ask someone to like try something different than what they've prepared, and I see someone like be uncomfortable to go outside of their comfort zone to try that, I realize that that is not one of their, like, I instantly know whether or not they are going to be capable of it, or, and also I get a glimpse of how they are to work with, like, and it's not necessarily an ego thing, and sometimes it honestly is is their own, their own insecurity about being in an audition room and being like, oh my god, I don't know, I wasn't prepared to do that, because some people need to prepare and just be like, that's all I can do. And so I for me it really, I just, I get like, the thing that people need to remember is, at least for me, I can only speak for myself in these audition situations, is that like, if there's one person behind that table that is rooting for you, it's me. Like, I want you to kick ass. I want you to be so amazing that I can be like, wow, we are casting him or her. You know what I mean? Like, that's amazing. We just found the person that's perfect, right? And and so when it comes to something like that, like I when I start to feel resistance from people trying to do something different or anything like that, then that's the thing that I like. People just need to kind of stay open about possibilities, and it's very rare that it happens. You know what I mean? I mean, like, or if I try to get someone to um I think people, my other pet peeve is like, people need to come in with, it's like, don't show up with just one piece of sheet music. Show up with a book. Show up with options. Because if I say like, do you have something else that shows me this? And they'll be like, I only have these two songs. That's all I have. Well, you've just shortchanged yourself, and I just drew a big line through your name. You know what I mean? Or maybe not through your name, but or at least I've been like, I don't know about that person. you know um it really is about trying to be open to all the possibilities, and insights into all of the different skills that you might have, and if we do, you get to try to explore them in a callback situation or an audition situation. It's just important that that you're able to do that. I mean, I've had those conversations with friends of mine that are also mainly dancers, and be like, oh, I'm just a dancer and I only have like this one song that is my one go-to song. I'm like, great, have 3 more of those songs and have them all with you, because you never know, you know what I mean, and like, what you're going to be auditioning for. And it's like, don't come in for Kinky Boots and sing like I could have danced all night, you know what I mean, even if you are belting it or trying to belt it. So so you have to know, you have to know the show, and you have to do your research, but you also have to be prepared. And the moral of the story, and I guess I just keep saying this all over and over, is that like, the people that I look for are really well-rounded singers and performers that have a wide range of skills that we can kind of build on, especially when we're creating something new, because we don't know what it is yet, you know what I mean. And you'll see something that excites you about someone and be like, oh, it would be so cool, because, and who knows what that's going to become if we cast this person.
I feel like there's a whole niche market of turning golden age theater into pop rock songs now that we need to look into.
I bet there is.
One more question, and then I'll let you go, because I know you've got a thing.
I'm good. I'm good for like another 5 if you
Oh, great.
need.
We'll see how fast you answer this question, and we'll go from there. Music directors moving to the city, what's your advice to them? I'm sure you get that question 5 million times.
Yeah, I mean, it's like go start sitting in the pits. Like reach out to all the keyboard players, reach out to the conductors. Everyone's on, everyone's on social media. I will say that, like, look, I try to respond to just about everyone that writes to me, because no one ever responded to me specifically, because no one ever responded to me, and that was back in the days of like faxes and like and mailing resumes to people. But it's, look, it's a tiny business, but it really does depend on, it is a lot of networking, and it's a lot of, knowing, starting to sub on shows. And I mean, I never subbed on shows, but I, got out there and worked with some people who liked what I did, and then hired me to do more of it, and then introduced me to other people that so it really is that, music directors, most music directors that I know don't even have agents. They have a lawyer that will negotiate their contracts for them and stuff, but like the agents aren't going to get you work as a music director. The people that are going to get you work are you, and the composers, the producers, the actors, the people that are gonna, kind of get you out there. So, I think it's really important to like kind of see what's going on, to, like people, especially the people in the pits, when we're in the pits again, it's like reach out to those key 1, key 2, key 3 players, the associate conductors. Like those are the ones that you want to really get in with, and like see if you can start subbing on books or taking a look at the book. And then and then you start to get into those circles, and then eventually playing rehearsals for shows and whatnot, and you never know what it could lead to. I also highly recommend playing classes at AMDA, playing classes at NYU, playing classes at any kind of educational musical theater thing. That like changed my life, honestly. Like I learned the entire repertoire from like 1900 until like now, playing at AMDA for, in the mid 90s, and I learned more than the kids that went there did. And you have to cite transpose, you have to, I mean, it was an incredible thing. And then I was playing auditions, and like you couldn't stump me. People would walk in, and they'd be like, here's this like shitty copy of what's that song from Metal, from Baker's Wife, that the guy sings.
Proud Lady.
Yeah, Proud Lady.
Metal,
Here's a shitty. No. But it's Proud Lady. Here's a shitty copy of Proud Lady that's been transcribed, that isn't even like real. Can you play it? But could you play it like a third lower, and there are no chords? And I'd be like, sure. I was unstoppable in that sense, and it's amazing. And it's more for like learning all the different styles, because we're building on all of those styles, and it's musical theater is transforming into so many other different things. But it's just so great to know that. Anyway, okay, one more. I can do one more question.
Great, one more question. You've touched on this a couple times, but I think it's a good place to kind of end things. What can actors do in a room to set themselves apart from everyone else that's been in the room already? What are the things that you latch onto that really draw you to an actor when they're in the room?
Just seeing the authentic person, like the people that can get past their nerves to just show us that little glimpse of just who they are, like, and just like the people that they can crack a little joke, or I mean, they don't have to crack a joke, but like where you see that, like that little bit of humanity of like someone that just like is just, that's a really fun, cool person that just walked in and worked real hard. That's my thing. I mean, it's like it's all good. Like it's all good if you can hit the notes and tick all the boxes, but it's a relational business. Like we all have to, and it's so intimate, you know what I mean, that we're all in the room creating something together, and we're making music, and it's such a special thing, and you want to share that with like-minded, cool people that that are gonna make some magic with you. And so that's all. I think just really just trying to get past yourself to get to be able to show us who you really are.
Last thing, do you have a contact address that you're willing to give to people? I'm also happy to play the conduit and have people email me, and I can forward stuff to you if they want to get in touch with you about whatever.
Oh yeah, why don't you do that? I can give you one when we hang up, and you can forward on to. Okay, that'd be great.
So let's end it there. If you want me to forward you, Stephen. Oh yeah, well, I'll forward things to you. If you have a question for Stephen, email me and I'll send it to Stephen, and he'll.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stephen, for your time. Stay well in quarantine. Love to the family. All that fun stuff.
Thanks. My pleasure. Thank you all.
We have Julie McBride next week on, I believe, Thursday. So come ask her questions. She's great. And I'll see you all soon. Stay safe. Stay healthy, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. You too. Bye, everyone. Thank you.